We love living local. We are Scott and Kelly Greats, third generation Central New Yorkers who live, work, and play right here in the heart of New York.
The mission of this podcast is to shine a spotlight on the people, places, and events that make our community an amazing place to live.
We don't run ads. We don't talk politics. Our only ask is that you help us spread the love that we have for this community by sharing these episodes with your neighbors.
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode.
All right, the week that was, here we are, steamrolling into November. Halfway through November. It's almost Turkey Day.
You know, right?
So weird. Feels like the older we get, the quicker time goes.
We're running out of it too.
Oh, geez. Starting off dark here.
No, I'm not being dark. I'm being honest.
So yeah, we got a whole bunch to bring you today. So let's get right to it. So last week, Election Day on Tuesday. Pretty strong feelings about this one. You know, we live in a municipality that had no contested elections, which on the surface you think, why would I vote if
it is your civic responsibility to vote? We are lucky enough to have that right to vote, and you need to go do it.
Yeah, so you look at obviously, I'm sure there's historical facts and data around Election Day being the same week as Veterans Day. I'm sure that's intentional, but it does bring home the fact that so many served, so many died to protect our democracy, and at the core of our democracy is our right to vote. So
there were a couple of prepositions that you could vote yes or no for on the back, but as far as like electing people,
I think there were some bigger like county judge positions, things like that. But anyway, so Election Day, hope your person won wherever you're listening from. And then Veterans Day, always the 11th, that fell on a Saturday this year, and so the day to give everyone a day off was Friday. And we featured Scott Helmer on our Hey Neighbor, just really good interview and dialogue with someone who's served our country. He serves our youth through different programs with the school, and he serves our community now in a healthcare capacity as a nurse. And so if you didn't check that one out, definitely do so.
Yeah. Then moving on, we skipped right to Thursday. I don't think we did much on Wednesday. Wednesday was a work day. Thursday, Jenna had soccer practice at the Nexus Center, which is a beautiful facility. Hour and a half practice, and Scott and I were looking to get out and about because like I said, we came home Wednesday and didn't do much. So we've given a shout out to Gerber's before in the past, and they happen to be open. Sometimes their hours are unique. And we walked into a great scene. It was really quiet when we first got there because it was 6:15, 6:30. We sat right at the bar, and just even the attire that the bartenders wear, so very cool to take a step back in time like that. And it was open mic night. So we got there early, and I think open mic started at like 7, I think.
Yeah.
And we were able to see all of these local musicians just walking in off the street, like with their guitars, and some of them brought their families and others were alone. And if you want to talk a little bit about the first act, this was
give some additional context. So Gerber is open in 1933. I don't think much has changed in there since 1933, which is cool.
I like that.
Yeah, the old school bar, the just ornate materials that are used. Like Kelly said, the bartenders dress basically from the 40s. And so what happens every Thursday from 7 to 10, we'll feature this in our buzz this coming week. Is open mic night hosted by Patrick Stark. And again, it's 7 to 10. So it was kind of neat, like I said, all the musicians started kind of piling in.
Yeah.
And the first act, I posted it to our page while it was, almost live. I didn't do it live, but this just really 26-year-old guy, he was talking afterwards,
And
found
what was
out.
crazy is he looked familiar to us. We're like, we've
Yeah.
seen him someplace before, but go on with your
Yeah, he might have
story.
had that look too. He almost looked like he was from the Game of Thrones.
I
It had the ponytail, the
Yeah.
blonde hair, but yeah, 26 years old. And he was awesome. So I guess you sign up in advance to get a slot. They do typically 3 or 4 songs, but this guy had just walked in off the street. The host had never met him.
Yeah.
So he said, sure, we'll get you on first. He puts them on first. He plays 2 songs and just killed it. And all the local musicians there were kind of hyping him up and patting him on the back and getting to know him a little bit better. And he was saying how nervous he was because he had never performed live before, which was hysterical because, frankly, he was probably the best
He was
one that
my favorite. He was
that
really
we
my favorite. And, yeah.
So yeah, it's a really cool. So that's every Thursday 7 to 10, worth checking out.
And they have really unique cocktails there too. I got what was called a French 75.
Okay.
Yeah, never even heard of it before. It was tasty. Yeah. It was good. So yeah, that was our Thursday night. We were like, this is awesome. So
Yeah, Friday we ordered out
yes, we did.
local shout out. We haven't shouted out the Brass Tack restaurant in Frankfurt yet. Shame on us. Locally owned and operated, third generation, the Terrace family. So give some love to the Brass Tack. We got
Scallops, fried scallops dinners, and fish fries.
yeah, so they're kind of known for
Really
their
good.
seafood. So limited hours. Off the cuff, I couldn't even tell you what they
Thursday,
are.
Friday, Saturday, I believe now. In the summer, they do music on Wednesdays, but I believe they're down to Thursday, Friday, Saturday now.
But yeah, just the whole goal of this show is to give some love to local small businesses, and the Brass Tack is one that's been doing it at a high level for many years. So check them out. Saturday. Well, before we get to Saturday, on Thursday, I was able to be the keynote speaker, which sounds really fancy and important and impressive. And when you're talking to fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, and you put on a sport coat, then you are fancy and professional and important. At least that's what I told myself. So I was able to do the career day at Jarvis Junior High School, which is the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grades for Central Valley Academy. Jarvis is in Mohawk. That's their junior high. So, yeah, very impressed, honestly. Going in, audiences with school age kids vary
Yeah.
clearly. Kelly's got the teaching background, so she knows. She's been on the other side.
You met one of my previous students.
Yeah, so Kelly taught in that district, and I was able to see some of her former students. But overall, I was concerned that my message might be above their heads at that age. It would have been above my head. I mean, honestly, if I went to an assembly, it was called Journeys Beyond Jarvis. If I went to an assembly that said, "What are you going to do after junior high?" My answer would be hopefully high school, right? I mean, that 10 a.m., the only thing I was thinking about in sixth grade was lunch.
Yeah. Well, I think some kids are really thinking about their future at an early age. It's become much more prevalent for kids to be thinking about grades. And I remember when we were in high school, it was like they said your sophomore, junior years like were the most important years, but half of us didn't even realize that at the time,
Yeah, so shout out to the teachers, to the families, to the
Yeah.
kids, because they were super attentive. They had really good questions, and they really put some thought into it and took it seriously. So I know we tend to paint with a wide brush sometimes when it comes to kids nowadays or this generation, but in many ways, probably more so than we care to admit, us old folks, these kids are years ahead of where
Very advanced.
we
Yeah.
ever were, and that's a great thing. So I appreciate CVA and Jarvis Middle School for allowing me to come in and share my message with 500 plus kids on Thursday morning. All right, let's get to
Super busy Saturday.
Saturday. Let's hit it.
Oh my gosh. Saturday, we were up and out of the house at 7:15 a.m. Jenny had a soccer game in Westmoreland. They played well, however, they lost, but we decided instead of driving back to Frankfurt after the game, we were going to go right to Syracuse because the Frankfurt football team played at the Dome. So after her soccer game, we stopped at Destiny, it's called. I almost called it Carousel. We stopped at Destiny. Jenna needed a pair of basketball sneakers, and then we hit the Dome for an exciting game. If you want to talk a little bit about the football game.
Yeah, we won't spend a ton of time on it,
Yeah.
but
It was
five.
exciting to
Yeah, they
see.
split it up this year. They did 3 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. 5 Central New York, I will say, within a certain radius of Herkimer and Utica County teams. So Frankfort played West Canada, and then it was Dolgeville and Mount Markham in Class D, and then the Class A, Whitesboro. Friend of the show, Kyle Meyer. That one was frankly a blowout. Dolgeville won pretty easily against Mount Markham, but the one that started it all was a 56-50 overtime thriller in the 8-man game, which is wide open by nature, but it certainly was wild. Frankfurt was down 14 at numerous points in the game, and ultimately came back, scored the touchdown, got the 2-point conversion to tie it at 50, and then they brought it home.
It's just so awesome to see the emotions, from both sides, from parents, from players, from everybody. It is so important to them. You can tell how devoted and how important, the sport is to them. I can
do probably 2 hours on this subject.
Yeah.
But, I guess from a 10,000 foot overview, the community involvement leading up to it, the community involvement during and after it, it's cool to see so many alumni, and just being able to kind of reminisce how many of us played in big games, played at the Dome, who's class won at the Dome, whose class lost at the Dome. So it's cool to experience that. I can tell you firsthand, the memories don't go away, right, 30 years later, because it is probably the most important thing to 90% of those kids, the most important thing on that given day for sure. And you don't want the participation trophy. You don't want to just be there. And it was, bittersweet because we have so many friends in West Canada, and they had 2 very significant injuries. Their quarterback, who was having a hell of a game, and then their receiver, tight end, kind of all around probably best player,
who then turned into the quarterback.
He got hurt. He only played 2.5 quarters, and he still got player of the game for West Canada. So they were up against it. There was no doubt. And just to see when Frankfurt scored in overtime and the game was over, all those West Canada kids collapse, to a knee or to their backs, just knowing it was over. And we experienced it this year in soccer when our team lost, our son's team lost in sectionals. And as soon as that goal went in, just watching all of our kids collapse to the ground and the tears, and good life lessons in there. But anyway, that was the Dome. New Hartford ended up losing a heartbreaker as well on Sunday, but that's how life goes, right? There's winners and there's runners up, but to be there is pretty awesome.
We left the Dome and needed to grab a quick bite to eat, so we went to Old School on Culver Ave. We always have a good meal there. The environment is very nice and relaxed, and I think every dinner or sandwich we've ever had there has been exceptional. The thing that was crazy about our meal, though, were the peppers. And let me tell you, we are a big fan of spicy, and we love ourselves some stuffed long hots, but these peppers were fire, man. I got through a half of one, and the bartender looked at me and she's like, "Do you want some bread?" And I'm like, "No, just some water would be great."
Needed a fire extinguisher. They were good.
They were good. But my dad had them for leftovers.
There were 3 of them.
Fantastic.
I muscled through one. Kelly got through half. We brought the other 1.5 back. And but no, overall, just lots of TVs, good place to catch, whatever your sporting event is. And I will say the prices were ridiculously low.
We did a double take for sure when we got our bill.
And in fact, so we like to look for different things. And so the fried bologna sandwich with the peppers, that's something different. And where were we? We were in Nashville.
Oh yeah.
At a bar in Nashville, and this guy, we'd already eaten,
Yeah.
and this guy says, you got to get the fried bologna at this bar, and it was too late, but we watched him eat his. But anyway, I saw it and it kind of stood out, and I bring that up because it was $10, and I'm like, well, let's get that and something else, and we'll kind of share, because $10 has got to be small. I'm thinking like this little
a good size sandwich.
It was not small.
Yeah.
Everything was right around $10. And we shared a few things and got out of there pretty cheap. And so that was awesome. So Old School on Culver. We left there. We went to our first Utica Comets game of the year, and they hadn't won a home game going into that. We hadn't been to a game. Shame on us. And clearly we're the good luck charm, because Rochester was in first place. We were second to last. And watching that game, you would never know that was the case with those two teams, because we just absolutely dominated them.
And we were lucky enough to have great seats. Friends of ours were away in Florida, so they have seats right behind the Comets bench. And it is a totally different experience to see these guys come on and off the ice, and the coaches talking to them. And the one guy came out. I thought he was going to spit a tooth out, but
he might have.
It was awesome. It was awesome to have those seats.
You don't see during the game if you're anywhere else. But we were basically on the bench with them. Right behind them. We got some pictures for you.
Yeah, it was good.
And like Kelly said, the 45-second line shifts and just the logistics of it. I never played hockey, but the logistics of it was kind of cool. The speed, and it's cold down there too. We were all dressed up, but so that was a good little Saturday. Let's give 2 shout outs on Sunday and wrap this sucker up.
All right. Sunday morning, before we went to church, I did a little bit of shopping. I headed down to the Friendly Bake Shop because Scott and I opted for church, and the kids wanted to sleep in after they're busy on Saturday. So I went down to the Friendly Bake Shop and got a dozen donuts. And I can't say enough about just the feel when you walk in there and the service they give you. It was recently reopened by Carrie Vitti and her dad. And my daughter has a favorite donut. It's a powdered donut that almost looks like a finger with custard in the middle. And I noticed when they reopened, I hadn't seen them in the case. And one Saturday or Sunday, I happened to walk in, and I had asked Carrie because it wasn't busy. And she said, "Oh my gosh, Kelly, I can make you one." And so this must have been a month and a half ago. And I walked in on Sunday, and she said, "Do you want me to make you another one of Jenna's favorite donuts?" And that was just awesome. That's what you get from a small business and people that you don't get from bigger stores and bigger places like that. So that was awesome. And then after that, I continued right down along Main Street in Frankfort to Meats on Main. They had their huge grand opening, I believe, on Wednesday. I stopped down there on Wednesday, but I did stop Sunday morning to get some meat. I purchased a chuck roast that I'm making pot roast tonight in the crock pot. I was able to get some ground sirloin down there would we have sliders on Sunday? And then I bought something else too. Oh, I bought some of their meatloaf mix so I can make my homemade meatballs. I'm super excited to have them open again. So they have a ton of different steak options down there. They have chicken, they have ground beef, they have Mexicans. We had those earlier in the week and they were really good. So huge shout out to them.
Yeah, we won't get too deep because we're going to have Nick Fumarola, who's the owner of Meats on Main, on as our hate neighbor in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about all things meat, which as a carnivore.
They have cheeses too.
I'm not mad about either of them.
Yeah.
I like all the finest meats and cheeses.
Yeah. Delicious.
So that's it. Those are the shout outs. The week that was, we'll be back with our weekend buzz in a couple of days. Hey Neighbor coming up on Wednesday, and anything in between, just let us know so we can shout it out. Until then,
peace.
See you out there. Thank you for tuning in to another Love Living Local episode. Before you head out to support all things Central New York, we just have one ask of you. Please help us share the love we have for our community by sharing this podcast with a neighbor of yours. We truly appreciate you. In fact, you are one of the many reasons we love living local.